All right, our next section is section 6.4 in your textbook, and that is on problem solving with proportions, which these are word problems, but I think most students find them so much easier than the word problems in chapter 3. And the steps that the book talks about are pretty straightforward. The first step is to read the problem, which makes sense. Assign a variable or a letter that you're going to work with. Then step 3 is to write the proportion and then solve the proportion. Pretty straightforward. Read the problem, assign a variable or letter, write the proportion, solve the proportion, state the answer, and you can cross multiply to check your answer. So these, like I said, these are word problems, but students find them much easier to work with. So example 1, Mike's car can travel 163 miles on 6.4 gallons of gas. How far can it travel on a full tank of 14 gallons of gas? So we've read the problem. We're trying to figure out how far it can travel. And so the x is going to be the miles. We know that it can go 163 miles on 6.4 gallons of gas. We're trying to figure out how many miles it can go on 14 gallons of gas. It's very important to set this up consistently. If you put miles on top of the first ratio, you have to put miles on top of the second ratio. If you put gallons on the bottom, gallons go on the bottom. There's several different ways to set these up. This is the common way I set them up. Some students will put gallons over gallons and then miles over miles, which is okay, but I find this to be the most straightforward. Miles over its gallons, and then what we're trying to figure out over 14 gallons. So you set up your proportion, make sure you're being consistent however you set it up. Then we will solve the proportion by cross multiplying 6.4 times x, and then 163 times 14. So that's going to be 6.4x equals, and again, use your calculator, 163 times 14 is 2,282. And then we just divide by 6.4. And we get our answer. 2,282 divided by 6.4 is 356.5625. And it usually tells you to round a certain way. I'm not going to round here. I'm just going to keep the whole decimal. But it will tell you how to round for each problem. So that's 356.5625 miles, which is approximately 357 miles. So either answer, it will tell you, like I said, it will tell you how to round for each problem. So you read the problem, assign a variable. So we said that the x is the miles. We set up a proportion being consistent in the way we set it up. Then we cross multiply and solve, and we get our result. If you want to, you can take that result and plug it back in and cross multiply again to make sure that it's equivalent. So all of these problems are very similar. You read the problem, and the way the problem reads will tell you how to set up your proportion. You'll always have one missing piece, then you cross multiply to solve. So I think you'll find these fairly straightforward. Example 2 says if 2 pounds of fertilizer will cover 50 square feet of your garden, how many pounds are needed to cover 225 square feet? So 2 pounds covers 50 square feet. How many pounds? So x is the pounds. How many pounds are needed to cover 225 square feet? So you can abbreviate, like I said, you can abbreviate your units, but do not let them disappear, because you need to know that pounds are on top of the first ratio, so pounds have to be on top of the second ratio. You have to be consistent in the way you set these up. And then once you have your proportions set up, you can cross multiply and cross multiply. That's going to give us 50x equals 2 times 225, I think is 450. And and then divide by 50, divide by 50, and x equals, I believe that's 9. So you're going to need 9 pounds of fertilizer to cover 225 square feet. Read the problem, set up the proportion, assign your variables so you know what you're solving for, and then cross multiply and solve. If you feel uncomfortable, you can pause the video and try the rest of the examples. If you'd like to keep watching, that's fine too. Next question says a U.S. map has a scale of 1 inch to 75 miles. Lake Superior is 4.75 inches long on the map. What is the lake's actual length into the nearest mile? So x is going to be the miles. So we have 1 inch represents 75 miles. So 4.75 inches. And x is the miles it represents. Again, I'm being consistent. Inches on top, miles on the bottom for the first ratio. So inches on top, miles on the bottom for the second ratio. You cannot get those switched around. Then we will cross multiply. Hopefully you're getting the hang of this. 1 times x is just x. And then 75 times 4.75, so you work that out in your calculator. 75 times 4.75 is 356.25 miles. And it says to the nearest mile, so we're going to round that off to 356 miles. That is a huge lake. And I think that's true. I think that's an accurate measurement. That is a huge lake. Alright, we're just going to keep on going with these examples. If they're making sense, go ahead and try them on your own first. If not, just keep watching me. But it's a very similar process each time. So example 4, cough syrup is being given at a rate of 30 milliliters for every 100 pounds of body weight. How much should be given to a 34-pound child? So your x is your milliliters of medicine. So we know that 30 milliliters is for 100 pounds. So we're trying to find out how many milliliters for a 34-pound child. So be consistent in your setup and then cross multiply. 100 times x would be 100x equals 30 times 34, which is 1020, and then divide by 100, divide by 100, and you should get x equals 10.2 milliliters. Very consistent. Each problem is very consistent. Like I said, even though these are word problems, students find these to be much easier. Example 5, a survey showed that 2 out of 3 people would like to lose weight. At this rate, how many people would want to lose weight in a group of 150 people? So x is the people that want to lose weight. So 2 out of 3 equals how many out of 150? So the bottom numbers are the totals. The top numbers are the people that want to lose weight. A little bit easier setup there. Cross multiply. 2 times 150 is 300. 3 times x is 3x. Divide by 3. And you should get 100 people. So those 100 people are the people that want to lose weight out of 150. Just keep going. Again, if you'd like to pause and try, that's fine. These are, I think, relatively straightforward. Example 6, in one state, 3 out of 5 college students receive financial aid. At this rate, how many of the 4,500 students at Central Community College receive financial aid? So we have 3 out of 5 equals how many out of 4,500? Again, the bottom numbers are your totals, and the top numbers are the ones that receive financial aid. So the X here are the people that receive financial aid. So consistent with your setup, and then cross multiply. 5 times X equals 3 times 4,500, which is 13,500, and then divide by 5. So X equals 2,700 students that do receive financial aid at that college. We're going to keep going. An advertisement says that 9 out of 10 dentists recommend sugarless gum. If the ad is true, how many of the 60 local dentists would recommend sugarless gum? So it's X out of 60. Again, totals on the bottom. So X represents the dentists that want sugarless gum. So totals on the bottom, the ones that recommend on the top. So consistent setup. Then cross multiply. 9 times 60 is 540. 10 times X is 10X. Divide by 10. And X equals 54 dentists that recommend sugarless gum out of 60. And last but not least, Carolyn can sketch 4 cartoon strips in 5 hours. How long will it take her to sketch 18 cartoon strips? So X is the hours. She can do 4 cartoon strips in 5 hours. They want her to sketch 18 cartoon strips, and they want to know how long it's going to take her. So cartoon strips on top, time on the bottom. And last time we cross multiply. 18 times 5 is 90, equals 4x, divide by 4, divide by 4. And I got X equals 22.5 hours. So it would take her roughly 22 and a half hours to sketch 18 cartoon strips. So if you read the problem, set up your proportion consistently. Whatever's on top of the first ratio needs to be on top of the second ratio. Whatever's on the bottom of the first ratio goes on the bottom of the second ratio. You cannot get those switched around. So consistent setup, cross multiply, and divide for each one of these. So most students find these relatively straightforward. So it's just solving proportions in different situations.